はい、よろしくお願いします。
Konnichiwa, Arai-san. How are you?
はい、日本はとても暑いですけれども、みんなで元気で頑張ってます。今日は登壇者の皆様、本当にご参加いただきましてありがとうございます。そしてシムリンさん、事前準備、そして当日のこの運営、これからよろしくお願いします。
Thank you so much, Arai-san. And let me quickly introduce you to our resource person for the day, Miss Arvinder Singh. And along with Miss Arvinder Singh, we also have Mrs. Namita Gautam, who is the trustee of the Sleepwell Foundation, with which we have done this collaboration. Both of them are here today with us.
Yeah, namaste.
And for Mrs. Gautam and Miss Singh, Ms. Chitose Arai, she is the president of one of the largest consumer cooperative federations in Japan. And she is the chairperson of our women's committee. Our women's committee in Asia Pacific, we have approximately 40 members from 17 countries in the region. And our members include board of directors, CEOs of country level cooperative federations. And these are very senior leaders who represent in our committee. And Madam Chitose Rai is the chairperson. And our vice chairperson is Miss Preeti Patel from Gujarat Mahila Credit Cooperative Federation. Even though she is not here today with us in this webinar, she was the person who recommended Sleepwell Foundation to us and introduced us to you. And we are very, very grateful to build this connection with you. Thank you so much for all your support. I would request Miss Arai to say a few words informally before we officially begin.
Sorry, you're on mute. Yes.
皆さんおはようございます。こんにちは。本日は女性に対する暴力を認識し、対処能力を育むセッションにご参加いただきまして、誠にありがとうございます。ぜひ、アルビンダ・ジェイシンさんのお話を聞きながら、私たち一人一人が自らの力で変化を起こすことができる、そんな、つながりを作っていきたいと思いますので、ぜひ、楽しんで、学んでいきたいと思いますので、どうぞよろしくお願いいたします。
Thank you, Miss Arai. Before we commence further, I request Mrs. Gautam if she would like to say a few words.
So, namaste. And it is my pleasure to be here attending this workshop and collaborating with the ICA Asian Pacific.
Recording in progress.
And just one moment, just a moment. I was trying to connect from my iPad, and I also had some technical issue. So I had joined from my phone, but now I am here. So thank you so much for giving us this opportunity. As we all know, we are working in the field of awareness about emotional wellness. And this topic, I am happy that Preeti Patel and ICA has taken up this issue. It is worldwide, global issue. So, and it also transcends all strata of society. So this is a very I am very happy that you have taken.
Thank you so much, Mrs. Gautam. And indeed, this is a very
Simran, she's
topic.
back. She's back. She's joined with Sneha Gupta's name. So she's there.
Okay, okay. Thank
Sorry.
you.
Yes, ma'am.
Sorry about it. So, and I wish all the best to all of you. And Arvinder is a master of this field. So I'm very thankful to Arvinder to having accepted this invitation, and she is here. Thank you, Arvinder. And thank you, and all the very best.
Yeah. Simran, you can continue.
Okay, thank you so much, Mrs. Gautam. I would like to request Miss Arvinder if she would like to say a few words before I start with introductions.
Well, thank you very
I'm
much
sorry. I'm sorry.
for this opportunity. Thank you, Mrs. Gautam, for this opportunity that you're giving me, for being my friend, and also for someone as a woman, especially, who has been, really bringing her voice to the table time and time again, something that really breaks the violence. And thank you, ma'am Chitose, for really spearheading such a wonderful initiative, a cooperative that really actually binds. And to my mind, cooperation is collaboration. And when we collaborate uh, as women, I know for sure we can make magic. So thank you, Ms. Chitose. If I may call you Ms. Chitose, because woman to woman, I think we are together in this. Thank you very much for this initiative. And I'm really looking forward to interacting with everybody today. Thank you, Simran, for organizing this and putting us together. And good on ICA Asia and Pacific to really continue to champion causes that are very, very close to women, and that also brings more power to them.
Thank you so much, Arvinder. And with the permission of the chair, Miss Arai, can we begin? Okay, thank you. So, warm greetings to everyone. I know our members and participants have been very patiently waiting for us to formally begin today's session. It is our pleasure to hold our second collaborative session with Sleepwell Foundation on the topic From Awareness to Action, Recognizing Violence Against Women and Building Coping Capacities. Sleepwell Foundation was registered in 2001, and it is a corporate social responsibility arm of Sheila Foam Limited, which is registered as a not-for-profit organization in India. Sleepwell Foundation has been actively working in the areas of emotional wellness and skill development through its innovative and dynamic programs across India. Their initiatives contribute to United Nations Sustainable Development Goals number 3, 4, and 6, promoting good health and well-being for all, skill development, and acting clean. Their comprehensive approach has yielded positive outcomes, significantly enhancing overall well-being of individuals and society as a whole. If you wish to watch some of their videos and films on emotional wellness, you can go to their YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram handles. And I will be soon putting in their foundation link in the chat box. Through their emotional wellness workshops on topics such as emotional wellness and first aid, perception and gender sensitization, effective communication, relationships, domestic violence, stress and anger management, coping with depression, abstinence from addiction, change management, and prevention of suicide, they are promoting and making people aware of proactive emotional wellness. They believe that prevention is better than cure. They have been executing their initiatives independently as well as in association with renowned organizations and agencies such as the Delhi Police, Delhi Prisons, organizations like Sanjeevani Society for Mental Health, Delhi Transportation Corporation, and several others. I also warmly greet and welcome Mrs. Namita Gautam, who is the Managing Trustee of Sleepwell Foundation and Director of Sheila Foam Limited, one of the makers of the most trusted mattress brand in India since 1984. Mrs. Gautam has been spearheading the corporate social responsibility activities of the group through its Sleepwell Foundation, and the group focuses on proactive wellness skill development, especially for marginalized youth and adults through innovative techniques and programs. And not the least, our resource person, Ms. Arvinder J. Singh, is a psychologist and psychotherapist and is also a consultant to the UN. She is the founder director of Ashoka Center for Wellbeing at Ashoka University in India and a guest faculty with Strategic Leadership Program at the Indian Institute of Management, Ahmedabad. Her work spans over 25 years and ranges from private practice as a psychotherapist to corporate trainings, from teaching and leadership to creating awareness about mental health and well being. She works on building healing spaces through listening and sharing stories. Ms. Arvinder believes that each individual has the agency and ability to own their narrative and write their life scripts, no matter what stage of life they are in. She is the founder of an initiative called Listening Circles and Healing Spaces that builds on this aspect of her work. We are very grateful to Mrs. Gautam and Mrs. Singh for joining us today and making this webinar successful. I would now call upon Ms. Arai to present her opening remarks. Oh, I'm sorry. I think we already had remarks from Ms. Arai before. Um, yeah. So let us not wait any further and commence our workshop with Ms. Arvinder. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you very much, Simran, for coordinating, for bringing us all together in this. And thank you, Ms. Arai, once again. Let me actually start with asking a small question. Uh, have you ever been, or have you ever felt, or have you ever walked out of a meeting or an interaction with somebody feeling unseen, feeling interrupted, or somehow feeling very small or diminished? Not because somebody yelled at you, not because they screamed, not because they slammed a door at you, but because what you said, your idea, or your emotion was ignored until someone else, maybe a male colleague, said the same thing, and suddenly it was brilliant. Or when, in any interaction or in a meeting, you were told, oh, you're too emotional when you speak with passion, or maybe called aggressive when all you did was assert a boundary. And that is a form of violence that we sometimes do not really understand. I mean, today's topic about, violence and recognizing violence and understanding violence and actually specifically against women and coping strategies, I think, first of all, I'd really like to start with building an awareness of what this violence is. Because, violence is not always allowed. Many a times it's the quiet erosion of your dignity, your sense of self, and you don't even realize that. And that invisible violence actually is a bigger one. I mean, uh, physical, we all know. Somebody beats you, there's a wound, there's some kind of injury, it shows on you. But many a times, when somebody really is constantly criticizing you, is sarcastic, is belittling you, saying, oh, you're too sensitive. You can't take a joke. And they say things that are hurtful, that are disrespectful. Now, this can be a verbal and emotional violence. And I mean, see, once in a while we all get into, being critical or saying something. But if somebody is constantly criticizing you, it could be happening at home. It could be happening in your offices, in boardrooms, where suddenly you're silenced, suddenly you're interrupted. What you're saying is you're not led to finish it, and said, and rude things are said in the name of, oh, can't you just take a joke? This is the verbal and emotional violence that many of us, we are not even aware of it. And violence is not just physical or verbal. Sometimes it's psychological violence. It's like, gaslighting. It's like making you second guess yourself. It, could be when somebody says, oh, you got that role only because you're a woman. They were really undermining your potential, and sort of putting it all to your gender. Like, you're a woman, that's why you got this role. We're also aware of, sexual harassment and sexual violence outside, in our homes, on the streets, maybe even at workplace. And sometimes it's the inappropriate jokes. And you're just left like, should I be reacting to it? Should I not be reacting to it? Some kind of unwanted advances. I'm reminded recently of one of the places where I was a part of the committee that was examining, somebody had complained and I was examining that case particularly. So without giving any detail of the case, I'd just like to mention that, there was this person, and they used to put a flower in their hair every day. And suddenly, a person of the other gender started bringing a flower to them every day. This person many times said, look, I don't like it. Please don't bring it. But they ignored, and they just kept bringing that flower every day, leaving this person very confused, but also very objectified in a way. So this would be a form of, and we might be very confused about, is it harassment? Is it not? But the very fact that this person did not like it, did not want that, and yet the other person sort of ignored and just kept bringing that, it points out to sometimes, an environment where a person may feel sexualized or demeaned in a way. This is an example of how it could be, it doesn't have to be very overt, but sometimes it's a very covert, very hidden kind of violence that we might even ignore. And violence is not just this, it could also be an economic violence. And for example, the pay disparity. Across the board, across professions, I don't even have to mention it. We have known how, many places for the same amount of work, almost there are hardly any places that give equal wages. And I'm really, I salute to the ones that really give, but many places you find there is a pay disparity. The same work being done, there is a pay disparity as far as women is concerned. It's like an economic violence of sorts, right? Or maybe, maybe very subtly, they're not told, but women may be denied some kind of promotions, or some kind of roles may be seen more as demanding, therefore women come to it. Or the access to professional opportunities is way lesser to women than it would be to men. All of these things, they constitute a certain kind of violence. And I haven't yet finished. There is sometimes, how you're just suddenly removed out of the email threads. Sometimes there's harassment on emails. There are very harassing kind of emails that we may be coming to. That's the cyber violence that, it's not like the others don't face, but women are very often, as in my practice, I also coach. So many times I find that women leaders say that there are times when they're removed out of the email chains. So suddenly they turn up in a meeting where suddenly they were removed from the email chain, so they don't have so much of the information, therefore putting them on the back foot on the table. So with limited information, so this is another kind of violence. I mean, it's a kind of harassment. And of course, we all know about the structural and the institutional violence that, that's there in our institutions sometimes, the biased hiring. I mean, I would just say that the glass ceiling, the lack of grievance redressal. I'm also reminded of, I can't remember the city where I went, where, it was a huge manufacturing kind of, and there was this woman who was constantly said that, you take very long toilet breaks. Your bio breaks are very long. Like, what is this? And, we are all working and she was very shy. She didn't know. And when on patrolling, when she was asked, she said, look, I have to go to the toilet. This whole floor does not have toilet for women. Because on that whole manufacturing floor, there were more men than women. There were very few women in that. So they had to go to another place, another floor, and that takes time, and that was something that was missed out by the institution, by the organization, by the factory, the manufacturing. So sometimes, there are these kind of, when policies they're not inclusive, when they ignore the women's needs. And sometimes, there are these microaggressions, as we call them, and these microaggressions are very subtle insults, and these are, of course, they're also called the invisible violence. So these are very subtle kind of so-called normalized insults, the kind of all kinds of jokes that we have on women, I mean, I know that I mean, we're all Asians, so in my culture, there is a lot that, oh, women are like this. So women are, stereotyped in a way which is derogatory. And that can happen, or even, some kind of subtle insults which may be dismissed as a joke, or, and they may be on the gender, on the caste, on the appearance. It's like, oh, you're very articulate for someone who comes from that kind of a background. Now, some of us may not even realize that this is violence, but it is violence because it is demeaning you. It's assuming that you are a certain background and that, you're not expected to be articulate or be on the table, or sometimes I notice that in boardrooms, many times, women are not let to finish what they're saying. They're interrupted several times. And also women are polite. So, so they quietly just withdraw. But if a woman were to speak a little bit louder than the man to be heard, it would be labeled as aggressive. Whereas the same thing, if a man did, they would say, oh, the person has conviction, he has passion, he's assertive, he's a good leader. But the same kind of attributes. And these are all examples of violence. One last one that I really want to mention, and I mean, have you ever sometimes felt that somebody, it could be a relationship, it could be work. So it could be something wherein, you were really, let's talk about a relationship. Why should everything have to be about work and boardrooms? I mean, it happens in our homes and so many times that it's like, when you're kind of love bombed, like so much of attention, so much of love, so much of everything. And then suddenly, and this narcissistic violence actually is called the violence of charm, of control, and of confusion. So the person may they may have an excessive need of admiration. And mind you, this could be a man or woman anyway. It doesn't matter. This could be a woman to woman, man to woman. I'm just in any relationship. And there is a lot of love bombing, and then followed by really devaluing the person, saying, oh, you're not good enough, or this is wrong with you, that. Now the person is very confused. These people, the narcissists, are usually very, very charming. So they will charm you, they will lay the red carpet for you, they will just do anything for you. And then suddenly you will find that, you're being ignored. In a relationship, I'm reminded that in my private practice, somebody said that, they would constantly, if I did not return their messages or calls immediately, it would be like, what happened? Are you okay? There's a lot of, and so many times, all this kind of hides behind so much of layers and layers of charm and status, maybe authority. So it just creates a deep emotional bond initially, and then suddenly it's withdrawn. And when it's withdrawn, it actually just does not, you sort of, you don't know what has hit you. So making you gaslighting, making you doubt your own feelings, like uh, either sort of saying, no, I never said that, making you sort of wonder, did I imagine this? But it's said with so much conviction. And because the person has been so intimately connected with you initially that you're kind of confused. Did it really happen? Did it not happen? Am I imagining it? And here, there is this thing called the imposter syndrome. Many a times, women also, I mean, seems like women have more of it, and more so in the workspaces, wherein some bit of it I think everybody has. When you're in a very stellar kind of environment, you feel like, oh, I don't belong here. But particularly women feel that, I absolutely, this is too good an opportunity for me. I don't deserve this. Everybody else is way better than I am. They're doing way more than I am. So that's called the imposter syndrome. And that actually what it does is, it's in a way, it just erodes your confidence. It just does not make you feel confident enough to sort of belong. So you keep thinking, should I speak? Should I not? Do I have a voice or not? And in a way, when people sort of also project blame onto you, oh, you're too sensitive, you just misunderstood me, it's your problem, it is not, so they deflect the accountability that what I said made you feel bad or belittled or whatever, and I'm sorry and I didn't want to. But they would absolutely point a finger at you saying, you're the one who has a problem. Now if you really see that the verbal abuse or violence and the physical violence, it may not be as much, but in our day-to-day work life and home life and interacting outside, how many of us have felt that, if you go with a man, and there is a male salesperson, and if it is anything technical, they don't even look at you, they start talking to the man, even if that man happens to be I don't mean to demean, but even if that man happens to be your driver, there is a certain kind of a subtle form of really ignoring as if you don't exist. And in professional settings, it may be your narcissistic boss or your narcissistic colleague. It's not really bosses, sometimes it's colleagues also. Huh? They may take credit for your work and not give you due credit or attention even in big meetings, or they may subtly undermine you in front of others. They may demand loyalty from you but don't not offer loyalty to you. And maybe even like if they are your senior colleagues or something, they may use you as if a reflection of their brilliance, like look at my prodigy, and really discard or diminish you the moment you try and show some kind of autonomy or some kind of, like, I really mean something. These are all the various kinds of violences that can happen. And I would just sort of say, we need to take a moment to really acknowledge and really see. So I'm going to do a short reflective exercise with you right now. I'm just going to, give you a few moments to think that, have you ever been in any kind of relationship? It could be professional, it could be romantic, it could be family, it could be friendship, where someone constantly made you doubt your own worth or your memory, uh, even though they've never raised their voice. Can you think of someone like that? Take a moment. And if you want to share, you can share. That would be wonderful. But share in as much as you can. And if you want to, share through chat with me, or if somebody is really looking at the chats. So keep it anonymous, and just let us know, or even the show of hands. Have you ever felt like that? I know I have felt like that sometimes. Some time back, I have felt like that, really guessing, am I imagining it? When the person with so much confidence said, no, this never happened. And I went on like, how could is my memory failing me? And those of some of the people who know me here, they know that, knock on wood, my memory is very good. I remember stories and cases from several decades back in details that even my clients who've shared with me have forgotten, because that's a part of my profession. But how many of you can relate with that? Maybe in your life, or maybe in someone close to you in their lives. You can show me a thumbs up, or write something in the private chat if it has been. Just a yes or a no would also be okay. My next question to you is, have you ever been told you're overreacting, you're too emotional, you're imagining things repeatedly by the same person, like, many, many times? And my question to you is, think about it. How did you feel? And did you recognize that they're the ones who are doing that over and over again? And my question is also, did that affect your ability to trust your instincts or your boundaries? Did it make you less confident? Yeah, thank you. Yes. Many of us go through that, and it doesn't matter where you are in the space of your careers or your age. Sometimes we've grown with it, and we don't even realize it's happening to us, because it's quietly and subtly creeping in day after day after day. And pretty much, without our realizing, our dignity is eroded, we're feeling less confident, maybe, and what the impact can also be is, our personalities may change. We may become more anxious. Maybe we are suffering a severe burnout at work. Maybe going to work is no longer fun. There's a lot of self-doubt. Maybe I'm not good enough. And so it affects our professionalism. It, and how does it show up? And it matters. And I would say it really matters that, we talk about it, or we notice it, or we look at it in the face. Why? Because many of us don't even label it as violence. Sometimes we are very confused, and sometimes because it's dressed up in professionalism, like saying, don't take it personally. It's only a professional comment. Don't get too emotional about it. And so you're left, and don't cry over it. So you're left very confused, and you don't know. But and sometimes it's the garb of professionalism, so I can't say anything. Sometimes it's my boss and politeness. And the biggest enemy for women is the silence. The silence with which we suffer. We suffer, we are confused because nobody slammed the door. Nobody even raised their volume. Nobody really said anything, but yet we constantly are feeling, with each passing day, we are feeling lesser and lesser of ourselves. We are doubting ourselves and our abilities. And, the thing is that, and challenging it is not easy, right? It's very difficult to challenge it. We are in work situations. We don't know how it is. And challenging it takes a lot of courage. It takes that quiet, steady courage of calling out a person who's doing that. It takes a lot of belief in self, a lot of, knowing that, yes, I matter, knowing that I know that I did not say it or whatever, and really being very quietly assertive. So, today is not only about really understanding what this violence is, but today is also about really building an awareness, like at what level the violence could be. And I'm also going to really pause and say, sometimes we could be the ones who are being violent as well. Because many a times, psychologically, when we've suffered so much of violence, we also inadvertently use that violence as a language of connection. There's one of the sayings in one of the cultures, uh, he loves me, so he beats me. He beats me, so he loves me, which means, the fact that, he can beat me. And the beating doesn't just have to be physical, but it's because, this is how uh, love is expressed. Now, that by itself, I would say that it's a very fairly warped way of looking at love. But this has been, in societies that are very patriarchal, this has been over and over again, emphasized and kind of encouraged. A lot of the time, our stereotypes are also about, telling our men, hey, don't be sissy or don't cry or don't be emotional. And that, in a way, is seen as weakness. And therefore, when that conditioning happens, we as women grow either to be silent or to hold back or to sort of question ourselves or doubt ourselves or just to feel very, very grateful that after, eons of being suppressed, we have a tiny little voice. But all of you really look back and see how many of us really have a voice at the table. And by that, I don't mean just our individual voice, but how many women are there in the very, very senior board positions? Not many organizations can boast that. And it's not because there aren't enough intelligent women. It's more because for some reason or the other, the women may not have been considered, like I talked about the structural violence, they may not have been woven into the equation. The kind of requirements, the kind of mentorship that, another man would get, maybe a woman does not get the mentorship. An assumption that women are probably working only to sort of supplement the income or sort of, or just to sort of entertain themselves, so to say, kill time, etc. So across boards, people, women on top, also in leadership, are given softer roles. They are covered in spaces like, oh, because they are more, emotional, they can connect. Yes, you're right. They can connect, but they can also be very assertive. They can also be very savvy technologically. They can also be very, very objective. They are not just an emotional piece of mush. And when we keep listening to this from people that really matter in our lives, and this doesn't really happen like, when we are in our 30s and 40s. It happens when we are very little. As little girls, when we were growing up, what was love like? Was love like always sacrificing? And what did it look like when I said, I want this? In some households, and all the examples that I'm bringing I'm bringing from my private experiences as a coach, as a therapist. So in some of the families, I've seen that, very, very leaders on top, women who are handling, like they have 50 people working under them, they have to come back home, into roles where they are made to feel very small. Mind you, I must say, I hugely respect and I hugely regard the fact that we as women we have multiple roles. We can multitask. I appreciate that. I think I'm very proud of that as a woman. But when that part of me is seen only as I'm good enough to do the household roles, then I know that there is a kind of violence that I'm growing up with. What are the kind of messages we got when we were growing up? What were the messages for our brothers and what were the messages for us? So I'm not saying what happened was bad. What happened is what's happened. But what are the messages we as intelligent women are giving to our children? So, I mean, when we really look at it, it's not just hostile work environments, it's also home environments that could be hostile. It could be friendships that could be hostile. So I would just like us to really take a little bit of a moment to sort of pause, to recognize, and maybe to share. Have you come across anything around you? I am not asking you to share your personal stories because that would be a big ask. I'm not asking that, but you as women who are leading, who are working, who are leading the homes, the families, many important initiatives, workspaces, handling huge multi-million dollar companies. I'd like to ask you, would you share and would you sort of dare to share if there has been anything that you've seen around you? And I would respect you to not name the person or name the organization or name the company, but just name the violence, because that's where it starts. Are we aware? Can we name the violence now that we know? I don't know how many kinds of violence I've pointed out to you, maybe 7 or 8 or 9, I can't even count. But right from uh, physical to verbal and emotional to sexual to psychological to institutional to narcissistic to any kind of microaggression. As the word suggests, micro, it's so tiny that it does not even get noticed. Do you think that exists around us? I'd like some views here.
We have Mrs. Gautam who has raised her hand.
Let's go on.
So, Arvinder, I have seen that even today, the parents are sending their boys to very good school, private school, but the girls are sent to any school which is convenient, close by, so that because the boys have to work hard and earn, while girls have to get married and go away. So that is something very prevalent, and I have counseled so many of our employees, like whether they are drivers, etc. In that society, it is happening a lot.
Thank you for sharing that. Yes, that's very, very pertinent that happens, where, we as parents are actually, and when I say we, I don't literally mean you and me,
Yeah.
we're more alert, but the masses that we see, because there is a whole narrative around it, there's a whole culture around it, and that needs to shift. And each point when I say, I'm not talking about the aggression, I'm not talking about really being loud or raising slogans and your voice. Of course, do it if it's required, there's nothing. But sometimes your quiet strength and courage is also something that's important. But I'd like to hear some more voices if there are. Have you seen it around happening in different cultures? And, I'm talking, of course, from my Indian context, but mind you, I have studied and worked abroad, and I know that it happens everywhere. Madam Latif, can I request you to also speak, because I saw you, sort of non-verbally agreeing with some of the things that I was saying. Is there anything that you'd like to bring? Are you trying to unmute yourself?
Arvinder, if I may, Miss Nurizan. Sorry, Arvinder was speaking to you. Yes, please.
So just asking if you've seen that happening around, because I saw you like agreeing with some of the things I was saying. Would you like to share? I think, if we have to really get into building some coping strategies, all of us over here will have to share some experience. May not have happened to us. You may have seen it somewhere happening. Yes, madam. You'll have to unmute.
Simran, please guide her to unmute.
Yes. Miss Nurizan, can you unmute yourself, please?
Sorry.
Ah, yeah.
Sorry.
Yes, yes.
Okay. Actually, I never experienced myself, okay? When you said about violence, maybe some depression, yes, but not aspect. Because as a leader, sometimes we are often exposed to mental violence, which
Yeah.
is sometimes we don't even recognize. You see, we don't even really feel that it occurs without we realizing it. This is what I once experienced when we deal with the men leaders. You see, sometimes we have been belittling. They used to belittle us. You see, when we try to 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 give away our ideas, you see, views in terms of certain area of a discussion. You see, this is actually I want to ask you a question before you go further. You see, actually, what is a coping strategies that
Yes.
that proven effective? Like myself, you see, sometimes I have to just keep quiet when these people belittle me in this, when we discuss um, in certain context, you see, to recover from this kind of violence. This is what the depression or mental violence, which is, I just realized when I went back, I get home, you see, when I want to go to sleep, then that event did play into my mind, you see. This is what I I hope that you can help me a bit about
Yes.
how to cope with this, you see, because I don't want to bring this into my dream, and it used to be so sometimes, you see. Thank you.
Yes. Thank you so much, Madam Nurizan, for bringing this because you brought some very important points. This is exactly the way it pans out. We think that it hasn't happened, and yet we see the male counterparts. Actually, especially in high pressured environments where performance is prized over people, where performance matters more than people. And the fact is, when you actually like shrink, because they have belittled you or they've said, "Oh, you don't know enough." Sometimes jokes are, "No, no, no, you're just very
Yeah.
good cooking home and food. Huh? You're very good with that. You can't lead." And you know that our world has had some fabulous women leaders who have actually been leading nations and will continue to do so. So I think the first thing is the truth is that no one should ever have to shrink themselves to survive in a relationship, whether at home or at work. I believe that very strongly. We must not have to shrink. And any place that is making us shrink, we must not doubt ourselves. We must say, what is happening over here? And in the next part, I will go into coping strategies. But I wanted to really spend this time also to sort of understand that many of us are going through that. And you raised another very important point about depression, about feeling, low about yourself or feeling depressed. Many of the psychological problems that women have, which is anxiety, which is another one is obsessive compulsive, kind of behavior, where, you become perfectionist because you're so scared that, your male counterparts will find faults in what you're doing. It's a very interesting statistic, huh? One of the very big research companies had done this, that when there is an advertisement for a position open, men will apply. If 40% of the criteria they fulfill, they'll apply. And guess what percent women look for when they apply for the same job? Just take a guess, anyone.
100%.
Anybody? Yeah. Okay, close to that, like when, like 80, 85, 90%, when they say, even then they'll say, oh, I won't get it because I don't have this one thing. But men with confidence, and this has been done by analyzing several applications that come, that the women who have applied are fulfilling like more than 80% of the criteria asked for. And men, even with 40%, feel the confidence that they can apply, that they are worth it. You know, this is a very, it's also a way of looking at it on how do we see ourselves, like how do we perceive ourselves, you know? Because men feel that if 40% are fulfilled, then they're good enough to go for it. And therefore, that is important. Knowing that, you know, the first thing is building the awareness. I mean, for a very long time, I could not really realize that there were these microaggressions all the time. I remember that I was, you know, I was on a phone call. It was an official phone call. But even if it isn't official, it's nobody's business. I'm a very senior leader. And somebody just, you know, looked at me. They wanted to really say something, and they did just this to me. And this person, obviously a man, you know, very tall. I'm sitting right now, but those of you who know me, I'm like, you know, 5 feet 2 inches. And this man was like 6 feet 3 inches, really looking like that. Or even something that you may have heard, mansplaining. Like they try and talk to you as if, you know, you're a child and you don't understand, you know. And so it's always in the garb of, you know, I'm explaining and I love you. But these kind of things actually make you feel very small. The moment this happened, I was like, wow, how dare you? You know, but obviously at that point didn't say anything. And for a second, I felt like I should, you know, cut the call or finish the call. I just looked back at him in the eye and I just turned around and walked away. Now I could do this because I'm a senior leader in my organization. And this person was also a senior leader, but I had nothing to do with him directly in my workplace. So I knew that I could get away with that. But I'm not sure that I could still have that behavior, you know, in a boardroom if my boss did that to me. I would have probably kept quiet. I mean, honest confession over here. I would have probably later thought about it. And again, to Madam Nurizan's point, that I would have felt bad, I would have been depressed. And a lot of women, you know, burn out in workspaces, maybe even quit workspaces, become depressed, become very, very anxious, become very, very perfectionist, look at things 10 times before they submit because they don't want to appear like a fool. The same thing if a man makes a mistake, you know, they can just laugh it off. Or the other man will just cover it up and not say anything. So I think that that is something that is so prevalent. And if there is anyone else that wants to really share any other incident that could talk to us about how these microaggressions happen, because it's about really, you know, letting us all know. I've tried to bring all the examples that I could, but voices from here will matter. And I insist that, you know, we speak up because that's the first way towards the first coping strategy. That's the way towards really actually saying, speak up. Now, this is your safest of groups, okay? Because we are all women. And I know that even though I can't see any of your faces, very few faces I can see, I also know that, you know, you're people from different, you know, countries. But I know that as women, as culture, as you know, not I don't even want to sort of judge and say as Asians. I think all around the world, I have been to several different cultures and the so-called very advanced cultures, and I know that women do feel marginalized, and they are made to feel marginalized because of the systemic violence that has been happening. It's systemic because it's been happening over years. It has been corroding our confidence. It has been setting up the stereotypes of what a good woman is. And any woman that is challenging is like, oh, she's not polite, she's not well behaved, she's not, you know. So if in case you feel that you want to type it out, you please type it out. And you can read in the chats. You can anonymously send me. I won't take your name, but I will just read up what is being said. I think it is important that we claim or reclaim our voices. You know, yes, I mean, somebody says that women are conditioned to continuously question themselves. It is systemic. It is, you know, you may, and yes, they Sometimes they make you feel guilty about childcare, And I think the fact is that, our role as mothers, so our need to work, and many working mothers suffer that working mother guilt, as we call it. Yeah. What do? You go home and you double up and you triple up your efforts. And you do things to make, or if somebody yells at you, I know where for sure that, like for some reason, if the man and the woman are both working, they both have high powered jobs, they've come home and their home is not, and suppose they don't have house help, they manage it themselves, or the house help has not turned up that day, or is on leave, even if it's a full time servant. And they come home, the house is in a disarray, but never mind that. Some guest has come. I tell you, most of the women will feel guilty about the not well kept home. The men will not feel guilty. They will just look at the woman like, why is the house not clean? Okay? Or they may not, it may not matter to them. They may not even notice that the house is not clean. But this is how ingrained it is. This is why it is the systemic violence which we really need to address. Address at individual level, address wherever we have agency. And all of you women have plenty of agency because you're in the workforce. So my first coping strategy would be, in your own groups as women, name the experience, call it out. It will take you time before you start calling it out in the boardroom. But do you have your own listening circles where you allow somebody to say without judging them, without shutting them down, without commenting on their dress size, without commenting on how they appear, without commenting on how they speak, but really respecting a person as an individual who's trying to balance so many things? I'm not saying pity, I'm not saying sympathy, I'm just saying acquired understanding. Okay. Now, challenging, as I said, it takes courage, not loudness. Challenging takes courage, not anger. Challenging is just the quiet, steady courage of not letting them or whatever's being said pass unchallenged. And you don't have to be loud for it. And if you have to be loud for it, why not? If there are men with their pitches and if you have to raise your pitch to speak, so be it. Challenge that norm that was set not by you, but that was systemically injected into the system so that you didn't speak. Yes, we are emotionally intelligent, but we as women have multiple intelligences. We have not just emotional, we have multiple intelligences. And in this day and time, the most transformational leaders are leaders who have the emotional intelligence as well as the IQ and everything else. Okay. So the first thing is name the experience, document the pattern, don't let it just go. Even if it means writing an email to say that I felt, if some junior of yours felt and they wanted to share with you, give them that space, give them that space to speak. And there are many ways that we can actually build and find the safe spaces. How do we do that? Find safe allies. Don't be a bystander. Don't just look and say, oh my God, that's a terrible thing happening. Become an ally. Become an ally as a leader, become an ally as a colleague, become an ally as a sister, as a friend, as a mother. Encourage your daughters to have a voice. Without a voice that is steady and courageous, that does not really belong. There's another, yes, I agree. I'm just going to read out this as well. It says, in today's society, harassment or belittling behavior among women is often motivated by envy, insecurity, or internalized sexism. This is becoming increasingly visible. While most conversations on violence against women focus on male perpetrated harm, it is equally important to acknowledge that women can harm women. Exactly what I said. Thank you for validating that. Thank you so much that you agree with this, because This is what systemic violence is. I do not want to mention, some kind of typical relationships which are fraught. There are jokes made about it, like in my culture, mother in law, daughter in law, sisters in law. Why should there be envy? Why should it be? And this is the violence that actually still is perpetrated by someone who had that kind of mindset. And I totally agree. Gossiping, spreading rumors, or character assassination. Oh, she dresses like this, or she dresses like that. Public shaming, social exclusion, mocking physical appearance, career choices, or personal struggles. Passive aggressive behavior in the workplace or community, online bullying, or cancel culture. Wow, so many things. Targeting fellow women. Yes, so true. Women being insecure of other women is so common these days. The girl friendships are hyped so much, but they can be really toxic at times. Thank you so much, people, for bringing this richness of experience, because this is what tells us how, the violence is being perpetrated all the time. A lot by the people who are so called people who are supposed to take care of us. And that could be our fathers, our mothers, our grandfathers, grandmothers, aunts, uncles, teachers of both genders, all genders, and so on and so forth. In this day and time, when I talk to youngsters, girl friendships are so toxic. How they bring you down. The social media does not really help the cause. And actually, this is the very social media which is also perpetrating some kind of stereotypes. It is labeling, it is judging. And therefore, I say, name the experience, call it out, document the pattern, write out, don't let it pass, and find safe allies. Allies who are not bystanders, because whatever we do, we can do it together. One of the ways how we can, as women, reclaim our voice is by the storytelling spaces. Much of my work works around these building these listening spaces, because I do strongly believe awareness is important, but it's not enough. Awareness is not enough. We need more. And action actually begins in every day, in our everyday interaction. How do we listen? Do we interrupt? Do we already start making judgments? Oh, this one is saying this because. How do we speak? Are we assertive, or are our voices just really being cowed down? How do we interrupt? And how do we deal with interruptions? And what are we choosing to build? Are we choosing to build a culture of silence? Or are we choosing to build a culture of care, a culture of compassion, a culture where compassion is accompanied by assertiveness and not just silence, where silence is not appreciated, where silence is challenged and said, what is happening here? Let's talk. And also authentically support, not tokenize. Many of you are in very powerful positions where you can have more women on the board. Do that. And most of all, do not feel threatened by another assertive woman. If anything, see what you can learn. Actually, as a psychologist, I'd also say that, sometimes when there is something that we really are critical of in another person, I'm not saying always, but sometimes that's something that we really are actually subconsciously wanting in ourselves. Okay, the freedom of the spirit, the ability to take decisions, that kind of independence that people feel. And in terms of financial freedom, the more the more I talk, the less it is, because many of us, I know that even though we work, we earn, how many of us have really that freedom to really sort of put it out? you know Very beautifully put, the cycle of pain. Hurt people often hurt people. That's one of the ways, ma'am. And you're so right. Unless healing takes place, this cycle can continue. A woman who was once made to feel not enough may unintentionally make others feel the same. What started as personal trauma becomes a learned pattern, eventually passed on to communities, friendships, and workplaces. So, therefore, what do? We challenge that silence. We first become aware. Take a moment and see, has this happened to you? Do you have the courage to say, yes, it's happened to me? I feel very safe with all you women, all of you. And I tell you, yes, it's happened to me. It's happened at workplace. It's happened where I've asked, oh, have you done this before? To which I've looked in the eye of the person and I've said, I wonder why you asked me that. Would you have asked this to another person who is running this? If that person, anyone else, would you have asked that? What made you ask me this? No, 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 I'm just asking. I said, people don't just ask, they have a question in mind. So ask the real question, because what I'm hearing is you don't believe that I can do it. And I tell you, my friends, my heart was pounding when I did that. I was very, very scared that I'm going to lose this project, this job, whatever you want to call it. But I said, this is something that I feel because I had worked very hard on building myself up to that and understanding how this violence had been corroding us for so long. So practice the boundary setting. Many of us, and not just, not just with men, practice boundary setting with your own children, practice boundary setting with your friends, with your spouses, with your partners, with your male and female colleagues. What is not acceptable? There were two women talking, and one of the women was, and these were two women laughing and saying both something about their faces and something about, and suddenly one woman told the other woman about, oh, something about, and made some comment on the physicality, the feminineness of the woman. And she just went very quiet. And I was just sitting there and I just asked her, I said, looks like you didn't like that comment. And she said, yeah, I didn't, but you know what to do. And I said, but why would you say that? If you didn't like, uh, and you didn't want to upset this colleague and this friend of yours, you could have still said, hey, I know you're joking, but I didn't like it. What does it take for us to say that? This is how, or, and in that space, I was the ally where I sort of said, hey, looks like you didn't like that. I didn't fight on her behalf and say she didn't like it. Why did you say that? But I just addressed the person and said, your face showed that you didn't like it. And that's all sometimes we need to say. Hey, how are you feeling when somebody did that to you? And creating those circles, yes, we're talking about, there's a question, where does one draw the line in workplaces? It's a very good question. And thanks for asking that. We draw the line where we feel the discomfort. If something, it's not about what others dictate. That's what I'm saying. Reclaim your power. You decide what is discomfort. Respect. The real respect means that I respect your ability to take decisions. I may have a question, and most respectfully, I can ask that question, but I cannot belittle you. And if I keep quiet out of what I think is respect, then ask yourself one more time, is it respect or is it fear? So women often ignore or dismiss negative behavior against such people because they think it's respect. Think again. If you were culturally brought up to say, oh, you're not supposed to speak. I mean, I know in my culture there is a lot about, you don't speak, you don't talk back to your elders. Okay. Yes, we don't talk back to our elders. We don't have to raise our voice. But what stops us from saying, that really hurt me? What stops us from taking the agency back to us and at least naming the emotion? What makes us assume that we cannot express our feeling? I am not saying challenge them. I'm saying challenge them, but in this case, I'm saying at least mention what is happening to you. Just talk about that hurt. So promise me, my friends, that the next time somebody says something that is upsetting, you can go very quiet. You can say, take a few moments and say, oh, I'm really processing that statement. Or you can say, and do not defend them. Don't say, I know you may not have meant it. Don't assume, just say, that upset. If somebody is speaking over you, non-verbally, there is a way of saying, I hadn't finished. I wanted to just finish what I was saying. I'm eager to hear what you have to say, but I'm equally eager to finish my point. No problem in saying that. You don't have to raise your voice. You don't have to, or when you go into this deathly silence, when everybody is cackled over you, you just come back to yourself and say, well, I need to finish my point, and since both of you had things to say to each other, I will reclaim the space to finish what I wanted to say. It will take courage, my dear friends, but very silent courage. And don't let someone else draw the line for you. You draw the line. You decide what is disrespectful for you. A male colleague, will definitely have more boundaries, because these days we have laws, and, they will really, sometimes, as somebody has really very beautifully said, woman to woman, those are the boundaries. Even if it's your woman colleague, your woman senior, your woman older person, just interrupt bias when you see it happening. If you see somebody being biased to someone, don't be the onlooker, don't be the bystander, just stop it. Support authentically, not just tokenize. Use your privilege to change the narrative, because only we can change this narrative. The story spaces that I was saying in your offices, make sure that institutionally, structurally, there are things like that example that I gave of even having a bathroom on every floor. Make sure. I know that there was I was again a coach, and I had visited one of the organizations, and I was talking to people. And one of the women was very disturbed, very depressed, very low. And, and somebody said, oh, please talk to her. She's a new mother. Maybe she's going through postpartum depression. And I said, okay. So I talked to this young woman, and she looked at me and she burst out into tears. And I said, oh, I'm sorry. I can see something is happening. Please be safe. And you can tell me. And she said, I want to be back at work. I don't want them treating me oh, I have this depression. I don't have a depression. My problem is, my child is here. I mean, and it was, I don't need to give you details, but that office had a crash kind of a situation for child and all of that. And she said that, and they lived somewhere close by. She said, I nurse my baby, and I do not have a space to feed my child. Okay, how come my lady boss did not even see this? And each time I said I have to express milk to send milk for my child, because I don't want to put my child on bottle feed. They're very, very small. I don't know what to do. So, and one time when she told her boss, the boss sort of said, oh, you can use one of these rooms. She said, can you imagine the embarrassment of me having to go into that room, come out, and everybody's looking at me? Or somebody saying, oh, get over it, it's not a big deal. Do not minimize any emotion. Talk to them. Yes, if you have to, we have to make them feel okay, and then help them see what else can be done. Also, structurally create spaces. We are women, we will bear children, but that does not make us inefficient. If anything, we can multitask. There is enough research and statistics which says men are not that good at multitasking as women are. Create in your offices anonymous feedback mechanisms. Give people the safety, the confidentiality, because most of the times, to many of the points that you have made, people do not raise their voices or speak up because they are very scared of the consequence. Then nobody will say anything, but quietly you will not get that promotion. You will not get that place at the table. Maybe you will be minimized. Maybe you will not be given high impact work. So watch it, and also create spaces, which are therapeutic. Does your office have spaces where women can actually have spaces which are therapeutic for them? How do we build the resilience of our women? Because they need that. I mean, how do we, is there any therapeutic support available? Individual groups or therapy or group therapy for validation, for saying, it's okay, for healing. You know how traumatizing this can be, of constantly this violence day after day after day, at home, at work, outside in the society, you've gone shopping, anywhere. There are many body-based healing practices also. For example, many of you may be doing yoga, and there are these other therapies as well, mostly trauma informed as well. And why I'm saying trauma? Because it can be very traumatic when you do not believe in yourself. Many women in our offices, in our workplaces, in our homes, many of us probably lack the legal literacy. Understand your rights, understand the POSH Act, understand the labor laws, understand the digital safety laws. You need to know that. You need to educate the women in your offices about it, because sometimes, it's out of ignorance that we second guess ourselves. We say, oh, maybe I'm imagining, maybe I'm being oversensitive. Oh, babe, maybe, another thing that I really feel that we really trivialize. And we say, oh, I'm PMSing. Yeah. It's not just menopause or premenstrual syndrome. Let's not just minimize it to it. This is real violence happening around us. Do we have peer circles, as I call them, the listening circles? My organization, Listening Circles Healing Spaces, truly believes that when we create circles of care by listening and not judging, not advising, not moralizing, not saying you must do this, don't do that, but validating the emotions and just letting the other person know, I hear you, I see you. That is where it starts making a difference. Also for your own self, we as women really put ourselves at the back burner. Please prioritize rest and recovery. It's not just about resistance, but burnout really serves no one. There is a saying that you cannot serve from an empty vessel. So your self-care is very, very important. Prioritize that and keep that time. I'm just going to give you a small example of self-care, and I'm not talking only about, women who are working. My mother, who was a homemaker, and, she had a very solid routine in her life, which was every morning she used to go to the temple to pray, and she used to sit down and pray. And now, we were 4 children and my dad. 5 of us, we could never speak a word or bother her or trouble her ever since we were little, because we knew she's praying. Okay. And my dad knew very well that if he lets her be and lets her have this time, she's the best wife and he gets the best food and he gets everything. But should he messes with that like I call it the self-care routine. I mean, religion and our spiritual practices are also a self-care routine. It would really put her in a spin. And I just said, wow, I need to learn from her. As a grown-up woman, when I look back, I say, that was her self-care. That was her me time, And when she went to the congregation to be with her other friends and maybe, just talk about religion and sing religious hymns, that was a way of her being a community. And that was a community of women. We as women need to go back to the ancient wisdom. Some of the things are very solid, which, our mothers did. And we need to really learn from our mothers, grandmothers, fathers. I mean, I'm not saying that the men did all wrong, the women did all right. No way. But I think systemically, we started sort of really taking it on and passing it away without really challenging. So those of us who are traumatized, and here I'd like to give you a very interesting fact, trauma has a Greek root. It's a root word, just like every language has a root word from which words come out. The word is tero, okay? And tero, whatever way it's pronounced, it's a root word for 2 words. One is monster, the other is star. So a trauma can either bring out the monster in you, which somebody had written, when you're traumatized, you really do the same to the other people. The other is star, which is that it's happened to me. I'm not going to let this happen to the others. What I went through, the others should not go through. Both phenomena exist. And there is a very famous study of twins also. There were these two twin boys. This study was over several years. The father was an alcoholic, and so the family was broken. The twins were separated. They had their own lives. And these twins were then interviewed. Like 30 years later, when they were interviewed, they were married, they had children. One twin was also an alcoholic and broken family and all. And he was asked, what happened? You know what? Why, how come your life is like this? You don't have a family, nobody cares for you, you're drinking, you have a problem. He said, what else do you expect? I had a father like that. What else is going to happen to me? I became just like my father. I learned it from my father. The other twin, meanwhile, as you would have guessed by now, had a fabulous life, very loving family, children, job, was going there, every very regular with the job. And they asked him, what happened? Like, how come this is, you have a, steady job and whatever. Who do you hold responsible for that? He said, my father. He said, what do you mean your father? Your father was an alcoholic. He was a wife beater. He never kept a job. He said, yes, I learned from my father what not to do. So really, we actually have to see, are we, we are blessed that we have a space where we can actually encourage and bring another woman up to wherever levels they can come. And when a woman starts batting for another woman, also men, because that we are as women, I think we are also very generous. We do that by default. But consciously, intentionally doing that will make us into really creating safe spaces. So I would also say, sometimes this creative expression of art, of poetry, of journaling, that can also help us transform the pain that we may have gone through into power. In a storytelling kind of way that I work with therapeutic spaces, it is about, the narratives we carry, the stories we carry, that we tell ourselves about ourselves and we tell the world. Those are the narratives we build. So first we need to change our story about ourselves. How long are we going to see ourselves as victims of violence? We could have everybody in us. We could be victims of violence, survivors of violence, perpetrators of violence, and rescuers of violence. You know how when one is yelling at it at the other, we quietly say, no, 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 this person doesn't mean that, they mean this. Especially to our children or to other people around us to save the situation. So, my dear friends, you don't have to save the situation. You actually have to transform the situation. You have to create a situation, create a narrative of well-being, create a narrative where everybody has a voice, create a narrative where there is no judgment on you being you, and create a narrative where you decide what is okay and what is not okay, where you support other people. And this is how we build resilience. Give hope to people who are feeling hopeless, connect them to resources if they need any, And the example that I was giving you of people labeling that this is postpartum depression was actually a very unmet need of this person. And all of us also operate out of many of our needs that are unmet. Whereas you did not have a control on the story when you were a little girl, whatever messages were given, can you trust, can you not trust, and whatever, if I were to really ask you, whatever is it that you were told as a child, you're responsible, you're beautiful, you're intelligent, you can do it, you're capable, those are the things that you're living even today. And as mothers, which many of you are, or as grandmothers, as aunts, as people, I tell you, this is what collective action can look like. Very simple. It's like a ripple effect. When you throw a stone in the pond, there are ripples that go very far. So you can create that ripple effect by breaking the silence, by using social media in a very positive way, by not having any violent kind of, the protests and all of that, but by your quiet courage, by educating, by volunteering, by advocacy for women empowerment, rather than saying no violence, but empowerment. You know, if I at this moment asked you to say to follow my instruction, which would be, okay, don't think of the color red. What just happened? What just happened? I reckon red color flashed in front of your eyes. Yes or no? Right? Now, what can you do if I don't want you to think of the color red? All I have to do is to say, think of that beautiful blue sky, the absolutely wide, vast sky. Think of the clouds in it, the white clouds, the blue sky, the clear sky. Think of whatever the things that it reminds you. Did you, my friends, by any chance think of red? No, you didn't. Because our brains are wired in a way that they do not have an image for don't. They can't see negative. They see everything in the same line. So that is why, on a light note, you know, when people are really also looking to diet and say, I'm on a diet, I'm not eating this, their brain is constantly saying, you know, if you say, I don't want to eat chocolate, the brain has an image for I, that is, you know, me as I look, and it doesn't have an image for don't. It has an image for chocolate. It has an image for eat also. So what did the brain hear? I eat chocolate. So I will just go and quietly eat a chocolate. I will resist, but then I'll eat. But if I just tell myself, I love fruits, the beautiful, luscious, you know, I mean, in Delhi right now, you have excellent mangoes, you know, so mango or something. My mind will not go to the chocolate. So use your voice, use your power to build a narrative by the quiet courage that you can show. Institutional accountability has to be built. Workplace policies have to be looked at. We need to build legal literacy of women. We need to have advocacy through social media and otherwise. We have to offer hope and resilience. And many of you who are survivors, you can be the change makers. You know, many of you know, the big movements have been by people who are survivors. So, I mean, I would say many of us in this group would be survivors of some kind of violence against us. Make yourself as a change maker, build collective action, and I will end with a very tiny story. You know, you might think that if what will one of me do? What can I do with this one thing? And, you know, my one little action, my one little office, this problem is widespread, it's worldwide. You know, there was a grandfather and a grandchild, and they went early in the morning, you know, near the ocean. They were walking on the sand on the beach. And in the morning, at night, you know, the waves brought a lot of tiny starfish. They're very, very tiny onto the sand, onto the shore. And the life of a starfish is such that in water it survives, but the moment it comes to the shore and sunlight falls on it, it dies. So this grandfather and grandchild, tiny little child, and there were millions of starfish on the shore, as you would imagine, because they're tiny creatures and the ocean is full of those. So the grandfather and the grandson were walking and quickly picking these starfish and throwing them in the ocean, throwing them fast. And one cynic who was just walking and saying, what are you doing? You're throwing this starfish in the ocean. What difference will it make? There are millions over there, you know? And that little child said, to this one, it will make a difference, and to this one, and to this one, and to this one. So, my dear friends, even if you can make a difference in one life, 5 lives, 10 lives, remember the ripple effect. Those 10 lives will actually make a difference in another 10 lives, and another, and another. And this is actually how it will carry on. This is what Ripple is about. Don't worry about the enormity of the problem. Just remember the quiet strength that you have. And all you need is people who you can believe in, and then they start believing. But before people believe in you, remember, you are the story you tell yourself and the world outside. So make sure you tell your story the way you want it. Otherwise, someone else will tell your story. And that won't be cool at all. So make that one difference every single day. with your child, with your spouse, partner, with your house help, with your doorman, with your lift operator, with the several people that work in your office, the several people you meet on the street. Sometimes just making an eye contact and that simple smile can be very empowering. There's a very beautiful quotation that you're way more than you think you are. You're way more courageous. You're way more empowered. And you don't really need, as I said, no anger required. Not always, at least. No loud voices required. Just your belief in yourself and your purpose, your higher purpose of bringing that change. So, my dear friends, violence has always been there. And we as women, if we've allowed this to happen, then the power to change this, now that today we've built an awareness about what it was, we're also seeing how action is possible. Let's break the stigma. If somebody wants to seek therapy, let's actually encourage and empower and say, good on you for doing that. Let's build a culture of self-care and compassion. And let's also build accountability and agency into everything. I can do it. I am enough. I am whole. These are the kind of affirmations that we can give ourselves, because with each, like some of you may be having some kind of maybe you do some breath work, maybe you do meditation. In your meditations also, hold these thoughts that I am strong enough, I can choose to become what I want, I choose to be what I want, and the fact that I am empowered to do it. I also have an exercise, but I want to pause actually and really ask if there are any questions on it, if there is any feedback on it, if there are any thoughts that you want to really share, and please share as freely as you've shared so far. I'm very, very touched with all that I read. So some more of it. Any other ways that you think that I may have missed out on that we can, empower ourselves, because this is collaborative. It's not just what I have to present, but also what you think about it, what your voices are. So thank you so much for your very kind engagement. I just like some responses right now. What did you think? Did you learn anything new that you want to practice? Anything that you want to share? You could just go on that. Anyone? You can type it out or you can speak up. Both would be good. Yes, Rajshri, would you like to unmute and speak? Okay, sorry, I saw your face, so I thought you wanted to say something, but that's all right. Yeah. Also, Simran, how are we doing on time? I'm not sure how much time we have. Or have I exceeded already?
We are right on time, ma'am, and
Okay, perfect.
still have
Perfect. Okay, so thank you very much. Can we have some, just a couple of, comments, what did you think of the session in terms of, was there anything, was it affirmative? What are the kind of, if you could just write, what's that one action you're going to take, for others and for yourself? That would be great.
If I may start, and then
Sure.
members can add. When we were planning this session, a conventional perception that I had in mind was that we'll be talking about the standard physical and
Silence.
psychological violence.
Yeah.
But in this session, we learned about the new age forms, like you said, microaggressions or invisible forms of violence, that we often don't recognize well. We have been feeling that for many, many years. So it's not new, but the word around those kinds, that is new. So Thank you so much for highlighting the new types of emotions that women go through on a day-to-day basis. They may or may not be recognized, but we as women do have those emotions somewhere inside us.
Yes. Thank you for affirming that, Simran. I think it's important because these are really not new. But as we evolved, as women evolved in their roles, working, expanding, and everything, I think the vocabulary evolved with it. And having a word for it actually helps us say, oh, I wasn't imagining. This is for real. It happens. Oh, yes, I know at that time. And honestly, I mean, I feel safe in sharing with you because you all have told me that it's an internal group and, internal recording. Honestly, I have faced it many times, you know, outside when I go, with my children, my child, or, even when I'm asking for something, they start looking at my husband and responding, as if I don't have a say. Automatically that happens. And like I told you, with one of my, colleagues in the past, just a way of treating as if you don't know. So they will explain to you like they're explaining to a child, you know, mansplaining. Now when we have a word for it, we say, oh, that's what was happening. Because look, as women, we are emotionally very intelligent. We recognize something is happening to us. We just don't have the word. And the moment, so there is a thing called name it and then frame it. Put it in a category. Oh, this is what is happening. Because that's when you will know that you're not imagining it. And always trust your intuition. It really does say something. Oh, I'm very happy to see Mr. Sunil Silva. I wonder what you thought of this session and how that was for you. To be the one man in this room full of women who are talking about violence of different kinds and microaggression. But just to sort of give a very whole picture, sir, we talked about not just men, sort of being aggressors, but women also being aggressors against men and against women, and no gender in it, but just the whole idea of violence. So I'd love to hear what you want to say on that. Okay. Okay, it's not a question, but a comment. And to the speaker, it is truly inspiring to see women empowering and uplifting one another, regardless of race, religion, or culture. It's encouraging to witness how sessions like this lead the way in promoting understanding, solidarity, and growth. These discussions not only help us recognize our strengths as women, but also allow us to acknowledge our vulnerabilities. They create space for us to better understand the different forms of violence occurring in our families, communities, and society at large. Thank you, ICA Women. Thank you very, very much for so beautifully summarizing. And ma'am, you are so articulate. You put the essence of the whole session so beautifully. Thank you so much for it, and more power to you. Continue to do the same in every boardroom that you sit, in every meeting that you're there. So thank you so much. That really warms my heart to read that. Thank you. Thank you. Any more comments that we want to tell our other women friends? I mean, this is the most validating for me personally, so thank you. Anyone else? And I would leave it to Simran to sort of say where you want to take this. I'm here for a couple more minutes if people have questions or comments. But I think what would be important is if we came out of this with saying, okay, going forward, this is the one thing I'm going to do, because you all have the power. What's the one thing that you're going to do differently? If you could just take that back home with you, that would be perfect. And if you could share that, even better. Otherwise, I mean, maybe we have to give it to Madam Arai to sort of close it. But thank you very much once again for the opportunity. Thank you, Sleepwell Foundation, for always standing up for what is correct, what is right, and what is emotionally intelligent. Thank you very much, ICA, for always, you know, collaborating, cooperating, and leading the way for the world. So more power to you. I'm happy to be in this forum today. Thank you very much. Namaskar.
Thank you, Arvinder. And maybe Angela, if you want to share some things, some thoughts.
Uh, Hi, everyone. I have a low connection here, so I cannot hear clearly about the session. But I love when,
Arvind,
yeah, Mrs. Arvinder said that I make a note like give hope to the people that feeling hopeless. It's that a sentence is very I don't know. I very like it, and I think one of the way we can give hope is one is we can do self care first for ourselves, and after that we sharing that hope to the people around us. Because here I have a like team member around five five people, and four of them is a woman. So I think I wanna I wanted to share some knowledge that I know today to against the violence in the workplace, and also give them hope. I think something like that. Thank you. I really love this session, but I have a low connection here. Sorry.
no, but thank you. We could hear you very clearly, Angela. And I think whatever you heard, you got just the crux of it, like, hope, offer hope and resilience. I think that's just wonderful. Some of the comments here are also, when I first heard the theme of gender-based violence, I also imagined physical violence. But when I learned that situations such as losing confidence by thinking maybe I'm wrong or being denied the opportunity to speak could also be considered gender-based violence, I was struck by their realization. Yes, ma'am, that's how invisible it is. And that's how slowly it percolates. The way it goes is we can't even notice. And thank you, Namitaji, for writing. Okay, for me, the root word meaning of the word trauma was an eye opener, monster in style. Isn't it how it happens all our lives? There are some people who've gone through something, so they really say, I'm never going to do this to anyone. And there are people who say, oh, it happened to me, so I'm going to do that. Even as little as simple as bullying in school, yeah.
Yeah.
I got bullied, so I will bully people. Or because I got bullied, I will never bully people because I know what that feels like. Yeah. So I think that is something that I really want us to carry because it's there's an idiom. It's called death by 1,000 paper cuts. Like we're chipping away on the confidence. You don't even realize. But if this has been going on with you for year after year after year, can you imagine how that feels for you? By the time you reach a certain age, you're losing confidence instead of becoming more confident and gaining. So yeah, thank you.
Arvinder, I would like to bring up one question, and this is in the context of coping. So a lot of times women, they do their best in understanding their emotions and dealing with it, addressing it actively also, in their homes, at workplaces. And they're really trying very hard to change the situation by proactively talking about it with their spouse or colleagues, friends, etc. But the other person is not changing, or their situation is really not changing, and they have no choice but to be in that situation. So a stage comes when they give up. They have no choice but to give up, and that leads to continuation in their suffering. They continue to suffer. And what does one do in that situation? How does one evolve or come out of that mindset?
Excellent question, Simran. Thank you so much because this is what we do. When there is a problem, we expect the problem to change. We expect the other to change. The other will not change till they have a reason to change. The only thing you have a control over is yourself, on your perspective. knowing that this atrocity is happening, what do you want to do with it? How do you want to deal with it? Okay, that is really the question. So expecting the other person to change is not going to happen. If you keep telling the other person you're doing this, you're doing that, you're caught in a game, a psychological game, wherein I will change when you change. So that will continue for years and years and years. If I really want, the problem to become smaller or more copable or whatever, let me show you an example. Okay, if this is what the problem, okay, this is the problem. This is, imagine, right? And how do I really make it look smaller or inconsequential without really breaking it? This can't, I can't change anything of it. But if I just did this become smaller? I put something big in front of it. Okay. So you cannot change the person. You can change yourself in a way that, you can make it so big that this becomes small. Right. So that's how mostly we expect the world to change. And we say, oh, so can you imagine how much power you're giving to the other person? That they can make you happy and they can make you sad. The happiness, the sadness, the confidence, the lack of it, all of it is inside you. So if you just shifted that spotlight, instead of putting it on the person or the problem, put the spotlight on yourself and see how beautiful you are, how much inner strength you have. And by beautiful, I don't mean physical beauty. I just mean the emotional strength, the resilience. So if you build the resilience, you come out stronger. Again, I'll give you a small example. You all have played with a rubber ball as children, huh? Or maybe you're playing with your children. If a rubber ball, when you throw it on the ground, it comes back higher. So an adversity can actually bring out that best in you, the star in you, right? And you come back higher, you're more resilient. Till such time as the ball is thrown so hard that it goes bust. Okay? But until then, please know that you are way stronger than you think you are. And waiting for another person or another situation to change. If you keep telling, please allow me to do this, please allow me to do this, anybody will read that you probably are not confident enough to do it. That's why you keep asking, let me do it, let me do it, let me do it. If you're confident, your language will be different. You'll say, I really want to do this and I need your support in it. If you need the support. If you don't need the support, you say, please, and the support needed could be, don't interject. Let me just do it. Or turn around and say, I want to really take a chance and do that. Oh, no, no, no. If I falter, I will turn back. Thank you so much. I will come exactly to you if I falter because I trust you. Okay. Encouraging someone who feels hopeless requires compassion, patience, and presence. It's not always about fixing the situation, but about helping them feel seen, valued, and supported. Yes, thank you so much. Exactly. So we must acknowledge their and others' pain. Don't dismiss, don't downplay what they are or we have gone through. We can say things like, it's okay to feel this way. You're not alone in this. What you're feeling is valid. Sometimes just being heard helps ease the weight of hopelessness. Thank you so much, again. So beautifully said. I'm just wondering whether you're a therapist or a counselor by profession, because your words are very, very, really bang on and apt. You summarize what is being said, and this is the wisdom really that we need to share with each other. Honestly, you don't need to be psychologist, you don't need to be therapist, but as compassionate people and people who believe in themselves. And if you make a mistake, it's okay. You say, oops, that was a mistake. I learned something. But what do we do when there's a mistake? Oh, I'm sorry. I'm so silly. I'm so stupid. We even tell ourselves that, don't we? I'm so silly. I did this. No. Use very kind and very compassionate words for yourself. And that's how you will be kind and compassionate to others as well. All our cultures, I can tell you most assuredly, all the cultures of all the women over here all say the same thing. So never discount or demean yourself, so others will also not do that. But I know I have to constantly tell myself when I say, oh, silly me. I have to say, no, it's okay. It's human to make a mistake. You know, just say, oh, I made a mistake. Instead of saying, I'm so silly. Don't judge. Don't judge yourself. Just, so look at not the problem, but look at your resilience. And that is what will change the world. Because suddenly they will see a halo around your head. Suddenly they'll say, oh, she can do it. She's very confident. Of course she can do it. Because that's the energy you're radiating through your non-verbal body language. How many times, we shrivel up, even in aircrafts, in trains when we are sitting, man sitting will claim the seat. What will we do? We'll shrivel up. Oh, I don't want him touching me. If I don't want him touching me, I can say, can you please just move a little bit so that we are both comfortable? I'm not pushing him away, so that we are both comfortable. I don't want anyone else's place. I just want mine. That is the slogan. I just want mine. Yeah. Okay.
There is one more comment from another committee member, Miss Koka.
Okay. Yes, please go on.
すみません。チャットの方に入れさせていただきました。
Could that be translated?
Okay, yes. She said that she sent her message in the chat box.
Yes.
Is it the one that I have never really given much thought to microaggressions? It
Exactly.
made me realize that I might be affected.
そうですか。じゃあ通訳お願いしてもよろしいですか？はい。
Simran, could you help me with that?
Yes. Ma'am, can you switch to the English channel?
あ、
in your input?
はい。あれ、向こうに伝わってない。
Yes, we can hear. We can hear you. So will you be reading her comment?
はい。読んでいいですか？じゃあ。はい。マイクロアグレッションなんて、今まで考えたことがなかったというのが感想で、でも今自分自身が今日のお話を聞いて、小さな暴力に自分が蝕まれているのかもしれないというふうに感じる機会にもなりましたし、反対に自分がもしかするとそういった小さな暴力を誰かに向けてしまっていることがあるのかもしれないと自分を振り返る機会にもなりました。このことは男性女性というより自分について考えてみる機会にもなりました。いい機会を今回ありがとうございました。
I can read that. So thank you, Makiko Koga, where you say that I've never really given much thought to microaggressions. It made me realize that I might be affected by these subtle forms of harm myself. At the same time, it gave me a chance to reflect on whether I may have unintentionally directed such harm towards others as well. Thank you for saying that. This is highest level of self-awareness, I think. Thank you for the opportunity to reflect. But this is, self-awareness, like I said, not just what we are receiving, but also what we are emitting. Each one of us is absolutely like a light source. What are we giving out? Are we giving out compassion? Are we giving out microaggression? And, microaggression can sometimes be, just the way we look. Like if we look like that, with anger or just dismissal or, just this flick of a hand, all this is microaggression. Sometimes when you're entering a room and somebody just does this to you, that can be very insulting. That can really be, and sometimes we don't realize we do that. See, ma'am, sometimes I think there's a slip that happens, but if this is a constant pattern, that's when it's a problem. If with one person you're constantly doing that over and over again, that's when it's a problem. Otherwise, see, we can be angry and we can do, but once in a while that happens, that's not really microaggression. But if with one person we are constantly doing it in either a relationship at home or work, so that can become like, then it is microaggression.
Any more comments or questions from our participants?
So I want to make a confession that
Yes,
today,
Namita.
today before the workshop, I was very aggressive with Praveen because there was something not going right, and I wanted perfection, so I was getting angry with her, and I want to apologize to her today.
Oh dear. Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
No
Well,
apologies,
that's all
ma'am.
we need to
Please
say.
don't embarrass me,
Yeah.
please.
No,
Yeah.
that's all we need to say. That's all we
Yeah.
need to say. Sorry, I lost it, but you know what? I really wanted to go this well, so
Yeah.
there was still no reason for me to lose it. And sorry,
Yes.
because
Yes.
it is
Yes.
not this is not an aggression. It's like an outburst that happened. But
Yeah.
I know this doesn't happen, but if, for example, Namita ji was always being aggressive or angry with Praveen, then the problem would happen,
Yeah.
but not like this. But thank you,
Yeah.
big on you, really very big on you to also acknowledge. And I think that's what we need to do. If somebody's done it, sorry, didn't mean,
Yeah.
yeah, didn't mean to come out like that. But thank
Yeah.
you.
Thank you.
Hmm.
Mhm.
Okay.
The last words.
Well,
Yes.
there are no further comments. Then I would like to invite our chairperson, Miss Arai, for her closing remarks and vote of thanks.
はい。皆さん、本日は女性に対する暴力を認識し、対処能力を育むオンラインワークショップにご参加いただきまして、誠にありがとうございました。本日のワークショップを通じて、私たちは女性に対する多様な暴力の形態、その深刻な影響、そしてそれに立ち向かうための具体的な方法を学ぶことができました。アルビンダー・ジェイ・シンさんのお話の中で、女性として縮こまることはない、声を上げる、仲間を見つけることで、私たち一人一人が自らの力で変化を起こすことができるという希望と勇気を与えていただきました。しかし、認識することは始まりに過ぎません。家庭、職場、地域社会において女性が安心して生きられる環境を築くために、マイクロアグレッション、思い込みや偏見によって無自覚に相手を傷つける言動に気づきましょう。マイクロアグレッションの放置は人権、人命を侵害する深刻な差別に発展する可能性があるからです。ですから、日常にあふれている問題について、仲間たちと一緒に学びながら、自覚的になることが差別のない社会への一歩、女性の地位向上につながると確信しました。ぜひ、今日得た知識と気づきを私たち一人一人の行動につなげていきましょう。そして、命と暮らしと女性としての尊厳を守っていきましょう。ICAP 女性委員会を代表いたしまして、ご講演いただきましたアルビンダー・ジェイ・シンさんに心より感謝申し上げます。また、スリープウェル財団のナミター・ゴータムさんのサポートにも感謝いたします。そして、参加者の皆さんの活発なご参加と、事務局のシムリン・シンさんのおかげで有意義な時間となりましたことにも感謝申し上げます。本日の学びが皆様の活動や日常の中で生かされ、より多くの女性たちの力になることを期待して、閉会の挨拶とさせていただきます。ありがとうございました。Thank you very much. Namaste.
Could I get the translation because I didn't have it here and I couldn't read it.
Oh, sorry. Yes. Can I request the interpreter to maybe put the message in the chat or maybe read the message again? She could hear it. Okay.
Not really come.
Yes. So, if you have the message written, can you put it in the chat box, please?
Or maybe
Yes,
just
please.
read
Yes.
out.
日本でいい、日本でいい。
But while
In
the
the
message is coming on the chat
Zoom
box, I
chat box.
want to thank each one of you because I just feel so energized and I just feel so validated.
日本語載せちゃっていいです。
Women across from everywhere, we resonated, we spoke the same language. All of us felt similarly. Nobody felt different.
Arvinder, I will send you the closing remarks in English.
Okay.
Sorry that you couldn't hear the English translation, but we will have it forwarded to you after the session.
Thank you very much. Thanks a lot, Madam Chitose. And I do know that with each one of us, I think, as we say, till we meet again. So all the best. Keep growing, keep glowing, keep making a sound, and never doubt yourself. Thank you
Thank you
so much.
much.
Thank you.
I request everyone, please open your cameras so that we can take a pretty
Yes, that
good.
would be a good way to also see everybody's faces and then, you know.
Meanwhile, I would like to recognize our members who joined us today from India, Indonesia, Japan, Jordan, Malaysia, Philippines, and Sri Lanka. Thank you all for joining.
Thank you.
We have, oh, wait, sorry, one photograph.
Nice.
Thank you so much to Sleepwell Foundation, Mrs. Namita Gautam, Ms. Parveen, and her colleagues. Our resource person, Arvinder, a big thanks to you. And thank you so much to our office bearers and dear members. And not to forget our support team and interpreters for all your technical support today. Thank you so much. Wishing you all a good day and a happy weekend.
Thank you.
Bye,
you.
everyone. Thank you so much.
Same to
Bye.
you. Shall we leave now?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, Arindaji. Thank you so much.
I just got the message. I'm just
Always a
writing.
pleasure to hear you. Seriously, I love your session.
Oh, you're very kind. Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Okay. Bye-bye. Bye.
Thank you, Simran. Thank you so much. We'll be in touch. And like, I'll just WhatsApp you whatever is required later on. Right? Thank